Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Jenny Drager, and I'm a training services consultant with Ex Libris. So we're in our implementing acquisitions in Alma series, and this is the second session. So we're going to be getting down into where we need to be, where we actually do the work. Before we get started, I do want to point out about WebEx. We're recording this session. It'll be available on the session webpage. If you ever have audio or video issues, the best bet is to exit and join WebEx. And if you have questions to send in, if you have questions, please send it to all panelists so that I can see it and my colleagues see it. And remember, at the end of my sessions, I also make a Q&A doc for anything that came up. So I appreciate that to keep the communication open and help me create the Q&A doc after our series is done. So here we are, week 2. We're going to be doing ordering today. And we'll be doing electronic and physical ordering. You'll notice, and I really stress, the workflow is the same. Alma was written, created, architected to manage ordering different formats natively, so we don't have to have one workflow for electronic, one workflow for print. They're very much the same. There's different details because of that format difference, whether it's one-time or continuous, and we're going to see that. So this is our agenda. Will be a very, very brief review, and we'll be talking about where you go get bibliographic records, and then get into the actual ordering, different order types, different order line types, talking about templates, and then PO line statuses, what they mean when you look at a PO line status in Alma. So ordering basics. What we're looking at here is that we saw this last week. And so what we're going to be doing today is essentially these first 3 pieces. We're going to start with a bib record. We're going to create a purchase order line, and that PO line will be packaged into a purchase order. Remember, that purchase order is just a container, but Alma has a very purchase order line centric view. From that purchase order line, we create inventory. We're linked to a vendor account, not the vendor record, the vendor account, because that's where more specific details are. And then also fund information. You have to tell Alma how you're paying for something, who you're buying it from, etc. So just stressing how we're going to start with a bib record, how we're going to create PO lines, package them, and that purchase order is just a virtual container. Alma focuses on the PO line, not the whole purchase order, with regards to ordering, receiving, activation, and invoicing. It's going to raise the flag if something isn't ordered, if the ordering process doesn't go through, if something is not received or activated in time, and then also invoicing, all based on more of a PO line. Now, I did create that document, and I put it on the website. Excuse me. Excuse me. And I'm just pulling it up real quick here. It's a subset of the user roles. And I'm pulling this over here, and I still haven't taken care of my little oopsie here. So when we're talking about ordering, there are a few roles that relate to it: a purchasing manager, a purchasing operator, and purchasing operator extended, where operator allows you to add and edit, essentially, where operator extended allows delete. So you would need both of these roles in order to be able to delete, not just the extended role doesn't give you the add and edit capability. So I just pulled this information from this link in the documentation, and you could pull that up and get more details if you need. I try to push you to that documentation. So remember my rules to live by. Let's make Alma do the work. And then don't make things any more complicated than they need to be. Don't add extra steps or extra checkpoints in your workflow if you don't need it. So let's start with Bib Records. PO lines require a bibliographic record. Where are you going to get them? Well, you might look in your institution zone if you're reordering something or buying replacements because you already have the bib record. If you have a network zone, you can look there for a metadata record as well. Now, network zones, how they're architected, where things live is based on the network zone. It's not our rules, it's yours and the cooperative, the consortium that you're in. I have seen network zones that don't have any print bibs, and I have seen network zones that do have print bibs, and it kind of depends on the future and how that network zone is going to work together. If you're planning on resource sharing and kind of a universal borrowing type of workflow, those bibs for those print resources will probably be in the network zone. So if you're buying something new, it's key to hook your inventory onto that shared network zone bib record, because that makes discovery, delivery, requests, it makes it all much smoother. If you're purchasing an electronic resource, you know, an ebook or a electronic collection, look in the community zone first. That's where you want to go. Bib records can be imported one by one from external resources also. That's good old Z39.50. It's built into Alma. It should be enabled in your environment. And you can pick from a number of databases from which to pull. You might have a workflow that has you using templates and creating a very brief, or however brief the record is, in the metadata editor. And then the cataloger can improve it later. So that's another option. We can also do import bib records with bulk import, and we're going to be covering that in session 6. So when we're talking about automating processes, working in external vendor tools, bringing the information into Alma. So any number of places to get it, and you just really need to come up, work with your cataloging team. And I recognize that some of you might be the catalogers on this call, but others, you might be part of a library where different people do the different things. So work out a workflow that works for you, work with those catalogers if it is different people. Where are these records going to live? Where are they going to come from? Whose job is it to do those checks, those quality checks? I just put a few screenshots in here looking for where to look in the institution zone. So this is an example of a physical resource. Network zone could be physical or electronic resources depending on the network zone. In the community zone, that's where we go for electronic resources. I have an example of an ebook here and of a electronic collection. Here's how to get to those external resources that Z3950 searching. One way is from the Alma menu, go to resources, cataloging, search resources. Or if you're in the MD editor, you can go to search and browse, and you'll see search resources. They both bring you to the same place. Or creating that brief record or using templates. You can have any number of templates. You can adjust your templates. And again, from the MD editor, you just go to new, choose your template, fill in your information, and go. There's something to be aware of now I'm not using an environment with a network zone for this series, but if you do have a network zone, under the new menu, you'll see something in here that says placement options, and that determines where incoming bibs will land. Will they be in the institution zone or will they be in the network zone? So be aware of what that setting is, be aware of whatever the requirements are for a network zone record, those kind of very specific details, and how that'll work in your consortium. If you don't see a bib record out there and you need to create a new one, where should those bib records land? So just keep that in mind. Okay. So let's go. I'm going to go pull in a couple of bib records. go back into Alma. And so let me get out of here. And the first one I want to do, I'm going to go here to resources, search resources. And I don't want that one. I was getting my examples. And so I'm going to search for the book Sunday Morning Quilts. And I want a print copy. Now I searched WorldCat here, and you can see I have a number of options. Now that setting is sticky. So the last time I searched, it was WorldCat. If you've never gone on this drop down, you'll probably default to the British Library just because it's in alphabetical order. And that may be your database of choice. So here we go. I've got Sunday Morning Quilts by Amanda Jean Nyberg, cataloged by LC. That's probably the one I want. This one's an ebook. I definitely want this in print. I can see this is public or cataloged by someone else. If I want to take a quick look at it, I can always go check it and do an import. Or if you know this is the one you want, you can just hit import right there. Boom. And it's in my database. So that's one way to go get a bib record. Another one. Let's say that I did a search. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it via Z3950. I couldn't find it in my institution zone. And I want to create a new record. So I can go to new. I just have a very, I haven't really customized my templates here. So however much information you have is fine. Okay, so I've got a Finley, F-A-N. I think that's right. So let's say I do a very brief bib, I might even have an ISBN and do a quick save. That will, Alma will get rid of those empty fields. So I have a bib and I am ready to order. If I did have an internal record, oh, that typo might not get me what I want. We're working on making Alma a little more forgiving, but not quite. So here's the bib record. Let's say it's already here in my Alma institution zone, and I could just click order right here as well. Let's go back here. So we've got we know where to go get bib records. Now, when we talk about purchase order lines, what do those do for us? They create inventory, they encumber funds, they're bundled into POs. Now, the important thing is they trigger workflows down the way related to activation and receiving, invoicing and claims. So the format matters, the continuity of the order matters, whether it's one time or continuous. Making that correct choice at the order line creation point makes a big difference down the road as you move through your workflow. So when you first create a purchase order line, you're going to have to select a PO line type. And the PO line type, Alma will give you a recommended PO line type because it knows that bib record, is it an ebook or a print book, or is it a journal, or is it a collection? Alma has some ideas based on the metadata record, the information in the leader and fixed fields. So it's going to give you recommended PO line types, but you can always choose the alternative in the list, and you're going to see me do that. Now, the PO line type is a combination of your inventory and continuity. So is it physical one time? Is it physical continuous? Is it physical standing? Or is it electronic one time, electronic continuous, and there is no electronic standing. So one of those options. Now the list of PO line types is a lot longer, and you can pare that list down. And so that is something that you can look at, see the list, see if you want to use those. And I have a link to exactly where in the documentation you can do that, where you can see the steps. Okay. Looking at this, here we go. This is just a slide talking about PO line types and the use cases, the order line, what happens to the PO line as it goes through the ordering process. So this is a link to the documentation for explanation of purchase types, workflow, and inventory getting created or not. And then here's that enabling, disabling PO line types. So if you see examples in that list that you know you're not going to use, you can disable them, disable those particular lines so that your staff doesn't have to see them, and no one will choose them if you're not going to use those. Another key point that someone made is that, is on the PO line, there's something called acquisition method. This is a setting at the PO line level. In configuration, you choose a default. Most people have a default of purchase because the PO line type of purchase means you're doing the work in Alma. You may have to go do it elsewhere in a vendor system. You may have Alma send it out via EDI or via email, which is okay. So those both work. And there is a list of the different acquisition methods. So I just put a link to the documentation. I'm always pushing you to that documentation. And specifically, I want to call out certain PO line types do not require pricing. So especially if you're doing depository gov docs, exchange, gift, or technical. So purchase of vendor system, and approval all require pricing. I want to specifically call out a technical PO line type. An example of a technical PO line type is, let's say you have a membership to an organization and then they send you their journal. So you would have a PO line in your system for that membership for which you actually pay. And then you could set up a second PO line type that's technical for that journal that'll allow you to receive the journal, track it, etc. And then you would link those two PO lines. You would, from the technical PO line, you would link it to the purchase or purchase at vendor system one that you're actually paying for. Now, someone sent in a message, and I'm taking a peek at it here. We use the add new item a lot, so our non-catalogers in ACK are not required to use the daunting mark template in the MD editor. So you're talking about, and this is a good topic to bring up. So what, oh, I don't want to do that. Close. You're talking about instead of opening the metadata editor, are you doing this, add physical item? E. Are you getting, I have a couple warnings about that. Okay, you said you are. If you do this, Alma creates the bib, the holding, and the item immediately, and the status of that item is on shelf. So I would caution against that. Is, check that out, test that out, and see if that's what's happening. Because then when you go to order something, if you're using acquisitions, Alma's going to make another holding an item when you click the order button. So that is a workflow that's going to need to change. You could make you could really pare down your template, your new record template, to be just a 100, just a 240, and maybe an ISSN or ISBN field. So that's the workflow I would recommend. As we go through this, you're going to see the downside to this. And I thank you for asking that question and bringing that up. Okay, I see what you're doing. Okay. So let's go ahead and, so that was the details about a PO line. Let's get into doing some orders. Okay, so we've got some orders. What are we going to do? What's the workflow going to look like? We're going to locate or create a bib. We're going to create a PO line, and we're going to fill out and complete the PO line. Doesn't matter if this is electronic or print. And remember, just the choices that you make at the time of ordering affects what happens downstream. Is that the right effect? I'm always battling that in my head and looking it up. Okay. So I'm going to go back into the metadata editor because I pulled a couple of bib records in. So let's use this first, this Sunday morning quilts. This is the one that I pulled in via Z3950 because we need to start with that bib record. And so I can come in here and find the bib record and then click order. By doing this workflow, Alma saves the record to the database. I didn't hit save on this one. And it releases it from the MD editor. So it keeps it, clicking that order button keeps it nice and tidy. So I do need a PO line type. And now you'll see, and I leave these turned on intentionally in this environment. You see how there's one called print book one time and a different PO line type called physical one time. That's that level of detail. Do you want to do both? Do you want to disable one of those? And if it's physical, just use this one and you don't really need to differentiate between these two because they're going to do the same work. We're going to do the same work. So I just had a request to do an example of pulling a bib record from the CZ. I'm going to do that. So these are our one-time orders. I'm going to start with print and then I'm going to do an ebook. So I'm going to choose physical one time. Who's the PO line owner? Where's this going to live? Because remember, Alma's going to make my holding record right now. Now I'm not going to use a template. I'm going to show you templates in a minute. And now this environment I'm in has a barcode generation thing turned on. So you might not see that little option there. Okay. So I pick my PO line type, I pick my PO line owner, and I click create PO line. So Alma has created my inventory. Here's my holding record. It is linked to an item record, and the item record has the appropriate status of not on shelf. It has a status of acquisition. So we can take a peek at that. I do need a material supplier. EKS, and I'm trying to remember my codes. Let's go take a peek. I thought it was BookSense. Here it is, BKSN. There we go. So this is my vendor account. I do have to put in a price. I need a fund. I have to tell Alma how I'm going to pay for this. Let's just say it's humanities. And I could get fancy and split my funds and go search for other funds. I'm not going to do anything fancy. So that's our required information. We need to know who we're buying, from who we're buying this. We got our price, we got our fund. Now there's some other information. Here's our acquisition method of purchase. I can put in a material type. This is going to be a book. That's important, you know, for reporting, etc. An identifier came over. Now down here, we've got reporting codes also. So let's say it's art and humanities. Let's say it's fine arts. Now you can have up to 5 of these reporting codes. I mentioned these last week. These are, you make these lists. You have complete control over these lists, and their whole goal is to help you report on what you're purchasing. So you can go through that, think about what, and then this in conjunction with that fund structure can tell you how you're spending your money. So you can kind of hash out those options. So I've got everything filled in, and now I have an option between order now and save and continue. So what save and continue does, I'm going to click that. What that is going to do is take this purchase order line, and I want to show you it really quick here. Boom, boom, boom. Its status here is now auto packaging. So what that save and continue does is it queues up the record, or the PO line, I'm sorry, and then Alma will run a job. It's already turned, it should already be turned on in your environment. And if it's, double check it though. And it'll package up those PO lines into purchase orders and then either send them off or just package them if you're doing the work externally as well. So that's what the save and continue does. The other option was order now. And what order now does is it packages the purchase order line into a PO immediately, and there's no auto packaging, and you know, would send it immediately if you have that set up. Okay, so that was one of my orders, one of my one-time orders. I'm going to go back to my MDE. I forget about, you know, we did this so the MDE is always on. The redesign of Alma, this was a huge thing. We've got it. So here's my other title, 15 minutes of play. Again, very brief, but it's a placeholder and it's fine. I have my bib, my physical one-time order, main library. Now, if I use a template, what is going to be filled in on my PO line? Here's my inventory and location. So templates are also super helpful if you're not going to live in that, if those items aren't going to live in that default location. So that's filled in. My vendor's filled in. It's never going to have a price. So I always have to put in a price. My funding is filled in. My material type was filled in. This template I need to redo because I added this. Look, all that was filled in. The only thing I really had to key in was the price. Save and continue. Done. This is a message. We looked at this last week. There are some warnings you can get, and Alma is saying this isn't the highest quality bib record. So this is, I call them little nasty grams. It's a soft block. It's just giving you a heads up. If you don't want to see that, you can disable this and Alma will ignore that. It won't tell you that you have a brief record. I'm well aware of that. Okay, so we've done a print one time of an item I pulled in through Z3950 and another one that I did as a template. Now, really, you would do that all at once. I'm going to do it one more time. So I go search for my bib. I find it out in my external system. I click import. Here it is. I click order. Physical one-time main library, book sense. Create PO line. The only thing I need to do is a price. Done. That was pretty quick. That was pretty quick. Oh gosh, something I forgot to show you was the interested users. I burn myself on that every time. So there is an interested users tab on a PO line. So let's say this came in, it was a purchase request, you know it at the point of order. If I click add interested users, do I want to notify this user or users at the point of receiving or activation? If this were an ebook or an electronic resource, I probably would, but it's physical. And let's say they said they want me to hold the item. So now I'll put this in here. I don't have to have any notes in any order records. Alma knows when it comes in, Alma's going to tell you that there's a hold on this, and fast track it through physical processing to get it out to my borrower. Also, the last option here is to notify upon cancellation. I've talked to librarians and they say, absolutely, but I never check that. So I just want to show you that interested users option. Okay. So those were my one-time physical orders. Now I had a request to do an electronic order as well. And so a one-time electronic resource, I have something here. Say I'm looking for the title Bubbles of Fiction. We don't have it in our institution zone. So I need to go, and it's electronic. So, if I had a network zone, I'd look there, but I'm going out here to the community zone. So here's my title. It's in this collection. And I didn't even look to see if that collection is really an aggregator or selective. I'm just purchasing the single title. And you see, I have the option to order here at the title level, but don't do that. And I have this in the PowerPoint. What you want to do is go to the portfolio list. Now, this example only has one portfolio, one supplier, but you could have a list here. And you want to order from this portfolio level. And don't forget this tip also. Remember how you can reorder these for your login? So make that button a little easier to find. But you want to order from the portfolio level because that's where you're going to get who's providing this, the linking, any coverage data if this were a journal. So again, we have our PO line type. Alma knows this is an ebook. So is it one-time or subscription? It's a one-time purchase. Again, I could fill in I could try a template. I'm not gonna this time. So here's my inventory, almost making my electronic inventory right now. Again, I need a supplier. I need a price. I need a fund. See how those templates really, they make everything so much quicker. Go. And I could have all the way down to these reporting codes filled in. The documentation, I have a link in the doc. And for this one, I'm gonna do order now. I just, instead of the save and continue. I'm getting my message about a brief bib record. Okay, Alma says it's not the best. That's fine. It'll work for now. It will work for now. Okay. So those were my one-time orders. I have some questions that came in. I have a bib with a holding and an item for volume 1. Volume 2 was just published. How do I attach a PO line to the bib without creating a new holding? I'm going to answer that like in the Q&A. I have another one. A user registers a request for the purchase of material. Is it possible to include the user's email address in the order so you can receive information about the progress of the order? Do the interested users. Use that interested users. You can tell them when the item is received if you wish. That's completely up to you. Or you could just place a hold or have that be part of the request. Another question. To be sure, if you don't send POs to vendors, you would choose purchase at vendor system and order instead of save and continue to avoid the need to run the PO job. Actually, purchase at vendor system, that is going to be populated when you work in an external system and bring things in, whether you're bringing it in via EDI or an API. Alma, so if you're working in an external system, I guess you could do that if you're doing, well, I've been wrestling about with this in my head lately, this exact thing. The PO job, even if it runs and you don't do anything with it, that's okay anyway. Because that method is kind of telling you where you're doing the work. Then maybe it's just informational. It's something to think about. And I'm going to keep pondering on that. Thanks for asking. Is there a way to include in the EDI import profile the interested user to be loaded? So we're going to talk about that in week 6. And as long as that external system allows that, because like if you're working out in Oasis or Baker Taylor or whoever, you're bringing those in. So the short answer is yes, but I'd have to look at the specific details. And all these questions that came in, I'll still respond to them via in the Q&A. So just a couple of thoughts off the top of my head, which is scary. Okay, so these were the examples of our one-time orders. Bib record is open, click the order button. If you have the bib record in the IZ or the NZ, from the row action menu, just choose order. This is that key one about if it's that purchasing a resource from the community zone, navigate to the portfolio. So click on portfolio list and order from the portfolio. This is just because you can doesn't mean you should. You'll be happier in the long run. This is just talking about the required fields and the optional fields for a one-time order. This expected receipt, timing, and date, that can come over from the vendor record if you wish. So at the point of order, it's already populated. And there's 2 options in each of these, whether they're print or electronic. Expected receipt after ordering. If you fill it out in the vendor record, that's what it'll come in, like 30, 60, 90. And you can always change it. If you actually fill in an expected receipt date, that will override this value. And for electronic and expected activation after ordering, again, if you have something in that vendor account, it'll pull over. But if you manually enter a value, that'll override it. We're talking about claiming next week. So that's where the importance of those numbers come in. It's your little way for Alma to do that checking for you and raise the flag if something doesn't come in time. Then I talk about the option for completing that PO line, the order now versus save and continue. There's not a wrong answer. The job's going to run anyway. So it'll package them up for you. And you do have some control over the packaging. And so it's all configurable. Okay, now templates. You saw me use the templates. What's that going to do? It's going to save sets of PO line configurations. So if I have my temp, and you're not going to create them ahead of time. You're going to say, oh, here's a scenario. It's going to live in this library in this location. And then, maybe it's going to be, you could have it down to the fund and the reporting codes and the vendor, et cetera. Or maybe you're going to leave the vendor out because you order from a bunch of different vendors, or maybe you're going to leave the fund out, but have the vendor. So it's all in to help you save time so you have consistency during the PO line creation process, helps with accuracy, and also making sure those reporting codes get filled in for later, so you can report on them later. When you create a template, you can make it private so only you see it, or if you don't mark it as private, the other purchasing operators in your Alma institution can see it, utilize it. And as with anything like this, develop a standard naming convention, whether it's like vendor, library, fund, or whatever, library, vendor, fund, whatever makes sense to you. And here's this, I put the link to the documentation in here about what fields are included, can be included in a PO line template. And you don't have to use them all. It's what helps you do this quickly if you're having to work in Alma. Now, I hope that I hope that you're going to have options available to you to automate this process and work in an external system and bring things in, but I just want you to understand how they all work. Now, how do you create a template? So when you're creating a purchase order line, you're going to see up at the top this little ellipsis. And so as you fill in the options that you want and click Save as Template. Give your template a name and whether it's public or not. Public meaning your colleagues can see it. It doesn't go to the whole Almaverse. And if it's no, then only you're going to see it as a list of options with your login. And then save. And you can correct existing ones. I need to tidy them up in my environment. And you saw me use this, right? I created a PO line. I had to fill in the type, the owner, and the template. Boom. All I had to do was hit price and go. This is mentioning that interested users tab. Oh, I just had a question, how to delete templates. Let me double check that. Thanks for asking. The interested users. Super helpful. No more little notes. And remember, if you have them, if people, another benefit of, doing that acquisitions is these will show out in discovery, like my ebooks, not electronic, not to their activated, but print resources. And so if I find an item, they're going to be, I'm going to see them in discovery and I can place a hold on it myself too. But if it is an e-resource and it's an interested user, you might want to check that notify receiver, notify user upon activation. And then they'll know when you turn it on. So we did our one-time orders. Next are continuing orders. Continuous. Same workflow. Find a bib, make the PO line, complete the PO line. It doesn't matter if it's print or electronic. Remember, you have to make the correct choices. Now, the difference with continuous orders is for inventory, only a holding record is created, no item records for a print continuous order. So, so that's the difference. Electronic, it's going to make the electronic inventory for you, no problem. Then I just have a few more notes. Same workflow when locating Bib Records. Where are you going to get it? Institution zone, network zone, community zone, remote. And make sure you, for an electronic collection, you could click the order button right from that collection. But if it's a single title, a portfolio, go to that portfolio before you click order. Same options for completing that PO line, whether it's order now or save continue, and you want Alma to bundle them up. There is one additional required field when you're talking about continuous orders, and that's renewal date. And I've never looked to see if renewal date is in a template. Okay, and then we're going to come back to that. So let's go do some orders, some continuous orders out in Alma. And I've got my example. Okay, I've got a print continuous. And for this one, I found a bib record out in WorldCat. Let me clear that out. Being sticky, that's new. I don't remember that being sticky until recently. Not when you reopened it. Oh, wait. I've got an ISSN. I'm doing that instead. 0261 510 510X. There we go. So here it is. Electronic, periodical. Let's take a quick look at it. I was trying to look for something that wasn't online. I might have to just all these might be electronic. Is this one okay? Also issued. Oh yeah, this is my one. Okay. So this looks like it's for the print. Oh, Cynthia just gave the directions on how to delete a PO line template. Thank you so much. Thank you. So here is my record I pulled in, and I could have found it anywhere. I could have created it, whatever. And I'm going to click on order. Very similar workflow. Matched record, no. I want to bring this in. This is my example. Now in real life, you might really check that. I'm going to say this is a print journal subscription. So that's that continuing. It's going to live at the main library. I can again use a template. Remember those public templates where other people have created that for me. So periodicals main library. Look what that's going to do for me. The location is going to be correct instead of living in stacks, instead of using that default. Now this template did not have a material supplier. So let me just throw that in here. You can see that claiming and this expected receipt date, all this gets populated from that vendor record. I do need a price. Need a fund. So that template didn't have a whole lot of detail in it, but that's okay. Including reporting codes. Oh, this is electronic, right? No, this is physical. Now here's that renewal date. So however you like working with that date picker. And we also have this field, renewal reminder. So do you want Alma to give you a heads up? Maybe 60 days ahead of when this is going to renew? And then you could check your usage stats, see if it's worth, renewing. I'll click order now. Oh, this was a print. This was a print. You could, if you circulate them, you could still check that. So that was my print continuous. And now I'm going to do an electronic collection continuous. I saw a question that came in, and I'm going to talk about it because talking about only the creator of a template can delete it. That's a problem when you have staff who have departed. Note for Alma developers. Go to the Idea Exchange. If you're not familiar with it, it's ideas.xlibrisgroup.com and type in PO line template and see if someone else has submitted that as an idea. And if they haven't, please submit it. If they have submitted it as an idea, make a comment on it, see what the status is. Remind me at the end and I'll go do that for you. Okay. So remind me and I'll show you exactly what I'll do to figure that out. But if it hasn't, I'll say, add that as a development thing because that's a good idea. Very good idea. So electronic collection, let's say I'm searching. So this is my electronic continuous order. We always use these because they're nice, small collections. And next week when we activate them, and I'm looking for, we use these examples a lot because they're nice, small collections. So I'm just going to kind of go down the list a bit. Let's go to page 3. The Pittsburgh Courier, that's what we're going to do. So there's 5 portfolios in it, but here's my collection. I'm going to go ahead and click order. It is an electronic collection subscription. It's going to live in the main library. I don't know if there's a template for it or not. We could give it a go. Let's try that one. So here is my inventory. It's not activated. The material supplier, that's kind of interesting. Okay, we'll leave it there. That's okay. My expected for activation is coming over as 15. Deactivation due in 30 days. I'm always going to have to do that price. Music fund. This is quite the interesting template, isn't it? We had a refresh of this system and it's go. Oh, look, the renewal date is populated in that template. So something to be aware of. You can populate it. You might want to edit it once a year, right? Let's do March. I'm going to see if I can edit these templates. I wonder if someone that didn't own it can edit it. I'm going to try that too. There we go. Found my record. Place the PO line. Very, very straightforward. The difference was that renewal date. Now, I put a few slides in here. If you happen to migrate holdings And so, okay, during your migration, you have serials and withholdings, etc. in Alma. Remember, if I make a new PO line, so you want to start using acquisitions, Alma's going to make a new holding. So what you can do if you want to use your existing holding record is when you're creating the PO line, check this box to assign inventory manually. You're going to get this confirmation message from Alma. You're going to say confirm, still create my PO line. So this setup is going to take a few steps. I'm warning you right now. So at that point, note the PO line number, and this will show on the right side of Alma. And just click save on the PO line, so it'll be saved in review. So I've got my PO line number. Search in the institution zone for that title you're ordering. How many holdings records are linked to the bib? If there's only one, you're going to have to click items and then view all holdings. If you have more than one holding record here, you can click holdings. The reason is, if I only have one here and I click on holding, it opens up the holding in the MD editor, and where I want to be is this list of holdings. I added this to the Idea Exchange myself. I have not followed up to see if it's been accepted or not. I asked for this behavior to change and go to this list, even if there's only one. So the way around it is you only have one holding, click on items, so it's one more click. Click on items, and then on the right side of the screen, you're going to see this view all holdings. I learned this the hard way. So from here on the row action menu, you can associate a PO line and then type in that PO number. Just copy it, just paste it because you would have copied it. And then go back into acquisitions, purchase order lines review. Finish your PO line details, vendor, price, etc. And you're done. So this is, the whole benefit of this is to use your existing holding record and not create another one, because when you move through the acquisitions process, Alma's going to try to make a new one. So I'm not demoing that just in the interest of time, but I put all those steps in there. I hope it's clear. Okay, standing orders. They're unique. You have a bib record that's suppressed in the repository because it's just a placeholder for the PO line. It's a hook for that PO line. When the individual volumes come in at whenever, regular at irregular intervals, generally a new bib holding item gets created for them. So the purpose of this bib record is strictly for acquisitions. Again, we're going to locate or create a bib, create a PO line, fill out and complete the PO line. They're all print. Now with standing orders, no inventory gets created. So here's that message, no inventory is created. So the PO line type is other, standing order, and it will require a renewal date. So I'm going to go back into the MD editor. Let me use that one. And I can just do a very quick. Always looking for examples here. This is the best, but it'll work. If I type. Oh, literally, that's all I really have to have. Remember that We'll take out all those unused lines. This is going to be physical standing order monograph. It's going to live at the main library. I'll use my book sense just to fill in some stuff. No inventory gets created. So my vendors filled in claiming I do need that price. Let's say I pay like, I guess about $75 per one that comes in. You know, this is it's an estimate. It's a, that money will be encumbered. Funds purchase. Now this one says purchase at vendor system. That is the, that's the template working there. And maybe I did. I do need that renewal date, 2023. Let's do, how is it already the end of March? Holy cats. Let's say I don't need a renewal reminder ahead of the time. Order now. There we go. Jennifer asked a good question. How would we link the bibs to the standing order PO? Actually, you can link the items back to it. And I'll do that. I can make sure I do that in 2 weeks if you would like. I'll make a note of that. Okay. And another person said for standing orders, you'd want to put the estimated cost in for the full year, correct? Whatever works for you. You know, how many of these are you going to get a year? Are you going to invoice? You know, how often do they come in? Are you going to have Alma release the rest of the monies? Do you know how often? Do you just want to do it per issue? And think about your timing, your funding, and what works best for you. Okay, so we've done all of our orders, right? I just have a few things to say about PO line statuses. So, and this is just pulled out of the documentation, but I just want you to be aware when you're looking at PO line statuses, something's in review. I mean, it you know, if you pull them up, you could say, oh, everything in review. It might not have everything it needs. Alma can throw things into review, like if you don't have a vendor. Alma needs to know that. So, or you might put something in review because that's when you just hit save instead of save and continue. You're creating something, a PO line, and oh, I don't have all the information I need, or I'm going to lunch or whatever. So boom, just do that save. Manual packaging and auto packaging. So you've hit the save and continue and it's waiting for the job to be run, or if you choose to manually package. And if you want to manually package, I would really ask why. I'd want to have a discussion about that. Again, don't make things more difficult because Alma just looks at those PO lines. Ready to be sent. And then sent. Now in my environment, it goes to sent automatically. Like, so mine is configured that way, even though I'm working in Alma. Once I hit order now, or if I ran that, let the packaging job run, it'd go to sent immediately. So it's a configuration thing. If a PO line is closed, so for one-time orders, you know, they're done. For continuous orders, waiting for renewal. And I think, boy, in the release notes, I think we're changing this wording a little bit, maybe in the April release, which is going to hit over the weekend. So props to the reading up. You know, I have a reminder on my calendar to read the release notes this week before they get the new Alma release comes out. I think I saw something in there about that. And then waiting for invoice. A few more. Resources. These are the same resources I showed you last week. A link to the Knowledge Center, a link to our LibGuides that we created. And remember, all of our documentation is indexed in Google. So if you just want to say Alma user roles, boom, just search it. You'll see it. A link to the series. I do want to talk about that idea exchange just because that was a really good suggestion, and I want to show you what I do. These were all my looking for stuff. So the idea exchange is ideas.exlibrisgroup.com. And I'm going to go into Alma. And you got to be careful. How would I search? Like PO line template, purchase order line template. PO line is one word. Add ability to save additional PO line reference field to a PO line template. Okay. So asking for more. Add the purchase request, approve an order action. Add expected receipt after ordering days to the PO line template. Search PO line by PO line note in Alma. Oh, that's like happening in April, I think. I think that's, or it's in May because I just went to a meeting about a future release. It's getting fuzzy. Reporting PO line notes. Add purchase type to PO line order template. Oh, okay. Display PO line owner and manage EDI tasks. PO line notes. Okay, we're getting away from template. You see how it's like getting less relevant down here? So now I might do one more search for just template. Metadata, I don't want that. Quick cataloging. Allow user customization of default. And that's holding. Okay. So I don't see about someone else deleting a template. So put that idea in here because our product managers, development teams, they look at these, and this is one way things happen in Alma. And I'm going to try to edit one that I know I didn't create. I'm going to see if I could do that, because what if I edit it? What if I edit it and then can I delete it? I don't know. It's worth a try. Oh, Cynthia added the, it is in the April release, the waiting for renewal name. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your help. Okay, so we've done our ordering. We are next week. Come back to my PowerPoint. Remember, we do have premium services. If you ever need individualized, these are paid services. Hands-on config, workflow optimization. We had a customer a couple of years ago. They couldn't replace their sysadmin, so they bought some hours with us to help them with their sysadmin until they were able to fill that role. And a former Voyager colleague, Endeavor colleague, is actually in that role now. So I was happy to see he's in there. So next week, we're going to talk about the next step, just dealing with electronic resources, and we'll talk about claiming overall. The week after that, we're going to talk about receiving those physical resources. Okay, so thanks so much. We've had some good questions come in, and Cynthia's helped me answer some, and I'm going to write them all up for the Q&A, and they'll get posted to the series. What do we call it? Dashboard, series dashboard. I hope you have a great week. or a great week. We're getting towards the end of it. Great rest of your week and weekend. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.